Jujutsu Kaisen is a shonen manga that has some horror tendencies. From the power system being directly connected to fears and emotions and bad feelings in general, the manga has a touch of horror weaved into it, a feeling of uneasiness. Sometimes it's in our faces, sometimes it's in the details, but most of the time it's in the background, hidden from our sight or deep inside of the characters we follow, but it is always there. No matter how much it is covered by constant combat, comedy and plot, the horror is always lingering. The dread of the supernatural and the primal fears of humans all mixed in together. Giga Akutami clearly likes to write about the supernatural and the uncanny and blurry line between normality and the opposite of that. Loneliness, fear, discrimination, injustice, incompetence, self-acceptance, responsibility, jealousy, burden, and so much more are the main hidden feelings that drive the cast of characters. Jujutsu Kaisen is generally all about humanity's struggle and humanity's evil. Every character struggles against and or is motivated by a very simple and humane fear. And that's where curses come in. Humanity curses itself and each other in an endless cycle that gives birth to the creatures known as curses, being quite literally the manifestations of the human condition. It's all about creating an awful world for themselves and each other. Much like a real world where greed, corruption, and evil makes life awful for everyone, humanity curses itself both metaphorically and literally. Physical curses in Jujutsu Kaisen always are ugly and weird amalgamations of flesh and organs that often have human resemblance but don't at the same time. Each curse is born from either a singular emotion created by one person or a collective fear that the majority of humans have. From mythological superstition to small hatred towards a single thing, curses are born big and small, strong and weak, smart or dumb. They come in endless shapes and forms. Some are vengeful and restless incarnations of humans. Some are reflections of disasters and phenomena. Fear of illness, fear of insects, fear of the divine, so on and so forth. The most uncomfortable thing about curses is how they act. They are always creeping around, they cling to humans and are generally unnoticed by them. Just think about a presence like this sitting next to you right now as you watch this video, but you are incapable of even noticing or doing anything about it while they can. Feel that powerlessness. They flock together if they are weak, or they dominate certain areas, making them their territories. They know humans can see them, and they are free to do whatever pleases them. That's why a lot of sorcerers cover their eyes, by the way. It is intended to not alarm curses by looking straight at them. The sorcerers are in such a sad state because they need to keep protecting normal people who are powerless and carefree, often leading to their own demise. To add more to the dread of the normality of this world, it takes the ghost, jinn, yokai, and any other phantom mythology, but connects it directly to human emotion, making the horror both internal and external. Not to mention when Gege leans into horror, he does. Some curses are insanely creepy by presentation alone. I want you to take a look at this panel for any long period of time and tell me you don't feel creeped the fuck out. Imagine being the soldier who has never seen a curse in his entire life, and this is what you are met with. Or place yourself in this girl's shoes, staring at a lifeless body dangled in front of you while a curse inhabits it. Imagine being one of those normal people in Shibuya. Normal curses aside, what if we put all of humanity's negative feelings about each other, including lust, greed, and evil, and all of that creates one single curse? What type of curse would that be? Mahito is described in the manga as the mirror that reflects humanity, and that is a perfect and accurate description that summarizes everything about him. He is the pinnacle of curses when it comes to morphology and form, along with the human intellect and a disregard for any emotion other than pure hatred towards humans. He combines both types of horror origins in the manga, curse and human. He, like any other curse, is the side effect of humans being humans, their literal manifestation. He's thematically scary as hell for anyone that comes across him, and just having him on screen is alarming for us because of how unpredictable and damaging we know he can be. But more than anything, his nature and abilities make him able to uncover things about the people he confronts that only he can do. He is the only character that gets Nanami, because no matter how much you guard your soul and you shelter your fears, he can get to the bottom of them. He is a terrifying creature you do not want to deal with, which makes Nobara insane, being the person that taunted him and ridiculed him as an antithesis because of her personality and ability. And even still, he got her at the end. Moments like this encapsulate that, often removing us from the action and reminding you of a curse's nature, a nature they all accept and understand. Only a human wouldn't, no matter how much he is reminded of it. When the manga first started, it didn't do well when it came to popularity, and that's the worst thing a new series from a young and new author can ever face. Akutami, in an effort to save his story, skipped some arcs and jumped straight into the juvenile detention center arc, the Cursed Womb Must Die arc. He said in interviews that there was going to be more school-related things and missions before that, but he had to scrap it and present this one early on. This minor detail into the story's history of production does actually matter because, for one, Akutami was technically forced into making Jujutsu Kaisen be set in a school environment to fit in closely to the magazine's standards and trends, which was not his intent or interest. That's why the school element of the story is barely present. This arc, which is the first major plot point of the story, aside from Sukuna's resurrection, this was the arc that changed everything in our main characters' lives. From the moment they stepped into the building, we get introduced to a domain, though indirectly. The characters are stuck and lose their way around, having to depend on Megami's dog, who died the moment they needed him. It was unsettling and graphic. Everything here was claustrophobic and too tense they were barely able to breathe. This curse was too strong and forced Yuji into despair, made him break down and shattered everything he believed in. While he later on will take on the king of curses himself fearlessly, at this moment he cried and feared death. He feared not meaning anything and regretted his decisions. He was hurt and scared. Nobara was defeated in battle, and later on was impacted and gained resolve from the experience. And Megami was burdened by guilt for leaving Yuji behind, stressed about Nobara's safety, and he faced despair incarnate himself. He witnessed Yuji die in front of him. Nothing was the same for the three of them after this. And this was all done in 1.5 episodes of runtime. By the way, this guy right here, Tadachi, who Megami says was driving a truck without a license and hit a girl, causing her death a year ago, that girl was in fact Rika. What I like the most about this arc is that it is the formal introduction of the two main villains, ones I consider cursed beyond curses, Vile Kenjaku and Ryomen Sukuna. Sukuna taught us about domains, easily killed the curse that almost destroyed everyone, and he influenced both Yuji and Megami's fates, quite literally cursing them both in the future. Kenjaku, well, let's just say he is the one who placed the finger in the center in the first place, just like he placed the one in Junpei's house, killing his mother, and so many other things I already talked about in his dedicated video. And I won't be discussing Sukuna much either, because his video is on the way, so subscribe, or else a curse is going to devour your left kneecap. For now though, I want to talk about Orimoto Rika, who is by far the most sinister thing in all of Jujutsu Kaisen. Rika, surely I'm talking about the giant scary curse that has boundless cursed energy, right? Well, no. I am talking about the little innocent 11-year-old we meet in Yuta's backstory. Everything about her is just so off-putting and there is a reason for that. She is presented as an innocent child that was cursed by Yuta. She wasn't even the one who cursed him, which would have been more common and normal in this situation. Everything about Rika is told to us through this extra page of information about her. While Gege usually does this to most major characters, it often includes their favorite food, hobbies in anime, or a few bits about their origins, but not Rika. Let's take a look at it. Rika's mother died suddenly from unknown causes when Rika was 5. 2 days before entering elementary school, Rika and her father got lost while mountain climbing. 1 week later, Rika was found alone and rescued from a shelter near the summit. At the hospital, she met Yuta, who was being treated for pneumonia. They later ended up going to the same elementary school. Her father was never found, and his death has never been confirmed. Aware of how her appearance is perceived, Rika sometimes manipulates adults. Rika was taken in by her grandmother on her father's side, who strongly believes that Rika killed both of her parents. Rika stole the ring she gave Yuta from her grandmother's dresser. It was her mother's wedding ring. When she was human, Rika was very friendly with Yuta's younger sister. However, after becoming a vengeful curse, she became aggressive, which is why Yuta distanced himself from his family. She dislikes everyone besides Yuta, especially girls and older guys. The thing she dislikes the most in the world is her grandmother's stewed eggplant. She loves Yuta. That alone is pretty messed up, and its vague nature makes it worse. It kind of hits at Rika having murdered her parents, which already subverts everything we know about her as an innocent child, but unfortunately, I think it's worse than that. In the next section, I am going to mention some uncomfortable topics, such as sexual assault and child abuse. So, if you are not willing to hear that, then go to this timestamp. Like I said, the simplest way to interpret this is that Rika was psychopathic to some extent, but this is Jujutsu Kaisen. It is not as simple as that. Upon further analysis, it gets worse. The combination of her awareness of how adults see her and the ability to manipulate them, her mother dying suddenly from unknown causes, and her dislike for older men seems to paint a picture of an abusive childhood, possibly sexually abusive. If you combine this with the fact that curse techniques commonly manifest between the ages of 5 to 6, which coincides with her mother's death, you get a lot of different possibilities of how things went down. The possibility I believe makes the most sense is that her father is the one who murdered her mother, possibly to have his way with Rika as he wishes. And him taking her to the forest implies, well, you can fill in the blanks and make this easier for me. Rika ended up killing him since she might have awakened her technique. This theory gets further clues and evidence since we know that Rika cherished her mother's ring. Why not her father's too? Or if she had been the one that killed her mother, why would the ring be important to her? It would be important to her if it was the father who killed the mother, explaining why she loves one parent and is possibly traumatized by the other. Rika looks a lot like Tomie, a character by Junji Ito. The physical appearance from the long black hair to the mole on her face, but also the personality and monstrous innocence. This, more than anything, explains the possibilities of the cursed scenarios that might be the truth of who or what Rika really is. You don't just get to be called the Queen of Curses for no reason. Her latching so strongly on Yuta right after meeting him is something that some victims of abuse do, latching on to the first person who shows them genuine empathy or simply seeing them for themselves. Her hyper-focusing on Yuta may be a sign of emotional underdevelopment. These are just conjectures that make sense. The truth could be that she murdered her parents with a cursed ability just because she wanted to. but it's very uncommon for those with antisocial tendencies to escalate to murder of humans so early in their life without any external factor. And these external factors are exactly what this page alludes to. And these are the types of details that Giga Okutami surprisingly puts into his characterization, whether you believe it or not. She says how the 6 years of her being a curse gave her more happiness than her human life. Again, hinting at how messed up her human life was. How bad would it be if you call living as a curse better? And the 6 years she is talking about that she was happy in are the ones that nearly drove Yuta to commit suicide and ruined his entire life. So yeah, very messed up. Rika also creeps the fuck out of me because she reminds me a lot of Esther from the movie Orphan, and I am not going to explain anything further. For those that never watched it, if you want an actually scary movie that would stay in your mind for years, then please help yourself at the recommendation. And lastly are these first pages from volumes 1 to 6, which are just shots of some background that is unnervingly empty and liminal. They are meaningless as they are, but they gain context in volumes 14 to 19 when they get a follow-up elaborating on that mini background story, often featuring one of the sorcerers after they exorcised the curse that was there. Back to that notion of presence that is invisible to humans and reminding us of the abnormal in the normality of this world. Even us, the readers, were not able to notice what was happening. Only a sorcerer could. Another reminder of how terrifying it is knowing the humans are powerless against these forces and how important sorcerers really are, and the chaos that would happen if they ceased to exist. Horror is very underlooked in Jujutsu Kaisen. People are too busy discussing the combat and complaining and nitpicking about the ending instead of appreciating the story in the first place. I would really love to see Giga Okutami take a decent break and leave Shonen Jump for another magazine that doesn't place limitations and barriers on what he actually wants to write. Maybe another idea is brewing inside of his mind, and an environment that would let it flourish would be very welcome. Just like Fujimoto did with Chainsaw Man. Eager to see what this crazy bastard comes up with next. A full-on horror manga would be very good. I have a Patreon linked down if you have expendable cash you would like to trade with bonus content and extra things over there. Make sure you drink your water and check under your bed tonight. See you in the next one.